Good afternoon. It's Sunday, February 3rd, 2026. It's almost warm out. There's still some sun up. It's Ontario, and you are watching Roasting the Press. My name is Chuck Black. My partner in crime tonight is Richard Gagnon, and Marianne will be joining us later. Richard, how's it going?
Going great. It's much nicer here than it is out your way.
It's 20 below out. The Hyundai wouldn't start today. The pickup truck's making noises. There's snow everywhere. How dare you make fun of where I live?
It's 5 degrees above here.
I ever so slightly jealous of that. Congratulations. You should be. Do you expect any cold weather this year?
Oops. There we are. There is the forestry service road is all slushy.
Okay.
And that slush gets into my transmission linkage. So when I go to stop, there's slush inside there, and I have to really play with the gear shift to get it into position.
That's okay. That's a springtime problem. It's a good problem to have.
Well, there is a slight problem. If the temperature suddenly drops and it freezes in there, then I can't move the transmission.
Ouch. Do you expect that to happen anytime over the next week or so?
No, we're supposed to stay above zero for the foreseeable future here. So, but it has happened to me in the past.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, here's wishing you the best of luck. You're in the best place in Canada for the weather this time of year. I will give you that.
Yeah, I saw that on mainstream weather. BC is pretty well all blue.
Yeah, Ontario is still 20 below. I don't know what's going on. I would say global warming, but it's getting cold.
Yeah, I know. So how do they justify global warming? Actually, they call it climate change now.
Yeah, they do. I still remember the 1970s with Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy, and everybody talking about the growing problem of climate cooling, and they've all changed their mind.
Yeah, and then of course the science really came out and showed them they were lying.
Yeah, they were lying for the stupidest, simplest reasons. Sometimes for money, sometimes to keep us in control. Any one of a number of things.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you want to go on to our first piece tonight?
Let us go.
It's all about Jeffrey Epstein and his friends.
Oh, good.
Now. Yeah, I mean, Epstein's a major topic in all the news services right now. Everybody's all sorts of public relations mucky mucks are going online to explain that, yes, they sent emails to Jeffrey Epstein, but they didn't mean it, and they actually secretly hated him. Now, the major advantage of the recent release of 6 million pages of government documents relating to the U.S. Department of Justice's investigations into convicted criminal Jeffrey Epstein is noting that Epstein seems to have a mandate to talk to as many people as possible, get something on each and every one of them, and then integrate them into senior positions around the world to do his bidding. This is whether you think he works for the WEF or for the Mossad or for the Illuminati, and there's members of all of them in those 6 million pages of content that have been released over the last little while. But pretty much any initiative or anyone you dislike, you can find an example of it in the Epstein files. You can complain about the malfeasance, and you could say, see how bad it is, they hung with Epstein. And this brings us to the February 7th, 2026 New York Times editorial under the title, Peter Attia, the Epstein files and lie propping up big wellness. Lies and the lie propping up big wellness. And the New York Times says that the lie propping up big wellness is as followed. And the whole article is essentially a diatribe against the wellness industry, especially those it calls big wellness. And this particular story focuses on a guy named Peter Attia. He's a Canadian-born American author known for his work in longevity medicine and his best-selling book under the title live the science and art of longevity. But the New York Times, they don't like him. They call him simply a longevity doctor who graduated from medical school, but never completed his residency. So he's not quite as good as everybody thinks about him. Definitely not very good about them. New York Times notes that Attia's name appears in more than 1,700 documents in the most recent dump of the Epstein files. And New York Times also notes that Attia makes crude jokes about sex to Epstein in emails. The bastard. Now, the New York Times article notes that Attia posted a statement on X on Monday where he apologized for his relationship with Epstein, but insisted he had done nothing wrong. He also accepted that what he did was inappropriate, which is fair. He shouldn't talk with a pervert. But Attia is not the real target of the New York Times hit piece. He is just the main anecdotal example in the story published by the New York Times, structured to be a hit piece for a broad category of health influencers who operate outside of mainstream medicine. And according to the New York Times, the implicit or explicit message sent by these influencers, many who have some degree of medical or scientific training, is that they are brave truth tellers giving you special secrets to a healthy life that some shadowy cabal of elites is hiding. And according to the New York Times, that promise was never true. The truth tellers are just as scummy as all the rest of us. And it goes on to say that many health influencers have ties to supplement companies. They make money from lawsuits against vaccine companies, or they receive financial backing from politically powerful billionaires and venture capitalists, especially Republicans. Now, while these influencers operate outside the bounds of professional medical societies and academic gatekeepers, many are frequently beholden to a different and sometimes less ethical set of elites. And my point is, shouldn't we always be skeptical of people in any industry who give advice without understanding their motives, without understanding their financing, without understanding their connections? And shouldn't this be true whether or not the person giving advice works for, I don't know, government or media, whether or not they represent large multinational conglomerates or they just own a small local business, whether or not they accept the legacy methodology of how to do things, or whether they're looking for something new? Richard, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, right. I always question everybody. I always do.
We should.
Yeah,
The New York Times, you go.
We can't let any of these organizations or elites or anybody control us. They're not allowed to.
Absolutely.
And people will say, well, how do you stop them? Well, you just ignore them. If you ignore them.
The New York Times argues from authority. And there's a lot of people who read and watch too much CBC or watch too much Toronto Star or Toronto Sun, and they think of the New York Times as the great gray lady that knows everything. And if the great gray lady doesn't believe your bona fides, well, you must be bad.
Yeah, of course. Of course, that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yes.
So you can take my word for it that I tell the truth. And those guys are all lying.
You can take my truth about it too, but I think the best thing to do is to validate our stories, to find out yourself whether or not they're true or false, to find out if we're stretching the truth or whether we're tilting at windmills or stretching a story out far further than it perhaps should be.
Yeah, that's definitely
you
true.
go.
That's definitely true. There should be everybody should be checking to see that all this stuff is legitimate or not.
I think so, and that goes for the New York Times. I think I think it's like bullcrap to accept everything the New York Times says without question. They have a history of being involved in all sorts of weird things
Right.
over the last 50 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was fairly serious propaganda that we had to call out.
Oh yeah. I love doing that on my show too. I like pulling out all these things that get people thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. We should be thinking. Shall we go on to the next piece?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's
Okay.
let's take a look at it and have something else to think about.
Let me see if I can find this right now. There we go. This is something I've never written about before, but this is something I've been writing. I've been reading in the background for like 10 or 15 years. It's a website called The Vigilant Citizen. And in particular, I wanted to talk about the January 12th, 2026 Vigilant Citizen post on how the politicalization of everything, including the ICE shooting, is poisoning America. Now, I find this to be an exceptional overview of how to stoke division and mistrust on both sides of a protest. And I kind of think, and the author of this article also agrees with me, it's essentially an overview of how the death of Renee Good in Minneapolis a month ago contributed to the narrative of helplessness, corruption, and collapse, made everybody distrust everything, and just wasn't very good for the United States. Guarantee you that. Now, according to the Vigilant Citizen, America has sunk itself into an extremely toxic cycle where most events, especially violent ones, inevitably lead to a divisive aftermath where rhetoric is increasingly radical and inflammatory. In doing so, the political discourse is being evacuated of everything that allows a nation to function somewhat cohesively. It sucks out reason, it sucks out rationality, it sucks out impartiality, and replaces it with every single event being politicized to push agendas. Every single event is distorted to fit narratives, and every single event is emotionally charged to generate unrest. And piling onto that, social media platforms are essentially inundated with bots, with influencers, with foreign agents whose sole goal is to add fuel to the fire, inciting anger and justifying hatred of the other. Now, this Vigilant Citizen article notes that the cycle of violence and rhetoric is similar to what is found in countries that eventually devolved into civil war. And they argue that this is a conscious, intentional process known to intelligence agencies and used often since World War II, primarily by the Americans and the British, to bring down opponents of Western governments. And according to the article, all this stuff starts with a flashpoint. And in the case of Minneapolis, the initial flashpoint was the shooting of Renee Nicole Macklin Good. She's essentially, objectively, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen. She was fatally shot by the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent, a guy named Jonathan Ross, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on January 5th, 2026. And almost immediately, the propaganda took over. There were immediate emotional pleas from both sides for exceptional change, generic calls for justice before the situation was even really understood. those demands escalated and became emotional touchstones. And they taunted the driver, explaining she didn't know how to drive. That struck me as being particularly rude and disgusting. Nobody wanted to know what was really going on. They just wanted to prove their opposition was stupid. These are only 3 examples of the memes that went out during that time. There's a million more. Now, the politicians, after a couple of days of this, they started to jump to conclusions. Mostly, they did it to pander to their political base. There is some concern that particularly the Democratic Party were orchestrating these protests in order to make the government do something stupid so they could get rid of Trump or overthrow the government. But after a few days, guaranteed, politicians began to jump to conclusions, mostly to pander to their political base, and protesters became radicalized through increasingly violent rhetoric. And to be fair, no one has the time to stand back and figure out what's really going on. And the article concludes by noting that, on the face of it, both the agent and the protester probably did not act in the most optimal way. Both appeared enraged by the other's actions, as made clear by the taunting and name-calling heard in the videos taken during the incident. And this hatred of the other led to violence from both ends that shouldn't have happened. This is exactly what could happen large scale to the United States as a whole if it doesn't heed these words. Stand back, look around, figure out what's actually going on. My personal perception is that there's more to what's going on than this single article, but we have elites trying to make us do stupid things, turn us into martyrs. I don't think that's what we really need to be doing. And I would say that these days, every event with a remotely political implication almost immediately turns into propaganda warfare, 5G warfare, where facts are intentionally ignored, intentionally distorted, or completely fabricated. That's my diatribe, Richard. What do you think?
Well, the States is going into a deep, really deep and dark area, and the Democrats, the cabal, the deep state, they haven't finished yet. They're just basically continuing what they were doing before, except they're really making it more difficult for Trump to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Trump has to get rid of all of those idiots. And that's what he's been working on. Now, people saying he's bad. Well, he's not bad. Doing exactly what he needs to do to get rid of these really evil people out there.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who criticizes Trump and says he should stop what he's doing, no. He is doing exactly what he needs to do. And granted, there's going to be people that are going to die because the Democrats are going to kill him. It's not the Republicans, it's the Democrats, the deep state. And when the military people, those trained to protect the Americans, start going against them, there is something that's really bad that's happening. So we need to stop that. And the Democrats are the ones that are really causing it. They really want to get back in power again. They don't like the fact that Trump has been dismantling all their work.
And to be fair, he has been U.S. aid at the very least. He's pulling the embezzled money out of the hands of the malfeasance, and he's trying to get it back into government. So I do appreciate what's going on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I do agree with the author of this article that both sides are using 5G warfare techniques against their populace. And I would argue that just sometimes it's easier to tell people what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we're gonna win.
Yeah.
I mean, the good is gonna win. The light is gonna win. Mm-hmm. The dark is gonna be completely exposed with very powerful lights. Very powerful lights.
And I noticed there's been some arrests lately, but generally in Minneapolis, the temperature's gone down a little bit.
It has. Yes, it has.
Neither side intentionally seems to want to overthrow the government at this point.
No, that's true. But the government needs to be the evil part of the government has to be dismantled.
Yes, I don't know how we're going to do that at this point. Although I don't know. There's a midterm election coming up in the fall. We're right at the edge right now.
I know. So we got to make sure that we get the Republicans or Trump people back in again completely. They have to be in there. They have to be doing the job.
I suppose so. I think, however, that I'm going to revisit the same point I brought earlier. I think the propaganda is hot and heavy on both sides. I think if the Republicans put out a couple of speeches saying they're trying to preserve the republic, and illegal aliens in the country, they should go back home.
That's right. They got to go back home because they're not allowed here. They're not allowed to destroy things that we built on this continent. And I'm saying the same thing for Canada. Send them back. Send them back. Even the Ukraine. Those who were
and the Ukraine will take them all. They'll send them into the war grinder.
Well, yeah, of course. But we got to get rid of all of these people who have been snuck into the country. We don't need them.
No, I agree with that. We got to find. We got to take care of our own citizens first.
Right. Yeah.
I got one more graphic I want to put up relating to this point. I missed it before. Trust but verify. We can get around all this propaganda if we just figured out what the purpose of it was. If we just stepped back and let our intellect get into control of the situation.
Yep.
And it's something cool Ronald Reagan said 40 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Trust but verify. Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
Anyway, I think we are going to go into another piece.
Okay.
Marianne, you going to come? Yes. Okay, she's coming.
Okay.
Sometimes we make jokes about how Richard and I are living in the bush and we live off wood stoves. Marianne's putting wood into the stove right now. And to be fair, that's what Richard sometimes does too when he drops off the screen for a moment.
That's right,
petting the cat.
Well, yeah, the cat's asleep.
Did you put the OcuShield on?
I did put the OcuShield on.
Well, that just brings us right into our first potential sponsor.
I don't remember scripting this part, but we do. We are in the midst of developing sponsors over the next few weeks. And continue.
OcuShield is great. And it will go. OcuShield is a shield that goes over your screen to preserve your eyes and block out the blue ray. But let me tell you, because the sponsor we have solidified, let me go to that one.
Oh dear.
Speaking of eyes, 5 years ago, I started to not be able to see for a bat. You remember? I would panic in downtown Toronto by about 5:30 in the evenings if the darkness came in.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see. I couldn't trail run properly if the darkness came. So I had to get glasses, and I felt like I was going blind. And then in the last, say, 8 months, something's changed. And I don't know. At the same time, I was taking krill oil, and I've also been taking my Vital C, SES Research, C60, called ESSA 60.
We don't have any of those links up yet tonight, by the way.
And absolute gratitude to our sponsor. I will say I have no validation to show the actual trace the medical proof or to tell somebody it's going to happen. But all I know is I drove from Sudbury in the dark and I didn't even use my glasses. Interesting.
I think one thing we should, though,
is
that we are interviewing a gentleman from C60 next Monday.
Yes.
At I believe it's 4:30?
5:30.
5:30.
Yes.
And we'll be posting that in the channel, and then we will have formal sponsors. But right now, you look really happy with what you did.
Well, I believe in it. That's why I went searching out. I mean, when I came to getting sponsors, I just went to the places where I know it's helping and I believe in it. I just contacted them and said, well, you might as well but I digress. The next.
Yes.
Okay.
Continue.
So I am revisiting the situation we talked about last week, which was the horrifying MAID and medically assisted dying programs in Canada, and on top of it, the agencies that advocate for people to be able to kill themselves. So I found I'm going to roast the press. I'm going to roast CTV up to what we're the mandate of the show. I'm going to roast CTV, and I'm going to put a question to Chuck and Richard and to our viewers. If you want to write in, we will not post their questions if they don't want them to, or their comments.
Mhm.
Can you tell me what's going on in this piece? Because the question I will repeat after.
Coalition of disability.
Sorry about that.
The question I will repeat is CTV is somebody in some way trying to jam and muzzle an advocacy group that has a very good point? Or is CTV just so confused and using too many AI chat GBTs and Groks that it can't think for itself anymore because it's mixed up either it's mixed up or doing something funny with two messages about MAID. So we want to play a video, and I know it's from a year ago, but the reason it's relevant is we brought up an agency, which I'm going to say with confidence is beyond creepy, called Dying with Dignity. They want you to die. They want you to realize
We spoke about them
human
last
right
week.
to die.
Yes.
Especially if you're healthy. My goodness, you should be privileged to die. And they'll do it for you, of course.
Mhm.
So I would like to, if we could play the video, and then we're going to pause it in the middle so I can just reiterate what's happening and question what the competency of CTV or the really nasty sophistication. Let's go.
Here we go.
Disability rights groups is launching a charter challenge over a section of Canadian law on medical assistance in dying. The group argues it's resulting in premature deaths. CTV's Judy Trin is on the story. And Judy, who's affected by this particular section on MAID?
Sandy, the concern here is about a group of people who have disabilities, but whose conditions are not terminal.
This coalition is fighting for the rights of people with disabilities. The group says a portion of Canada's law on medically assisted deaths is discriminatory.
Let me be blunt. By allowing assisted suicide solely on the basis of disability, our government is telling Canadians with disabilities, and for that matter, all Canadians, that their lives are less valuable, that their suffering is best relieved by death rather than support. This is not just wrong, it's discriminatory.
There you go.
I'm actually quite convinced CTV is very aware of what it's up to. Very serious problem here. This advocacy group that she's speaking, very intelligent group, very clear, and I'm right behind them on what they're saying. Okay. But take a look at what she is saying, and you'll hear the next woman speak, is what they're saying is they're not going in to challenge the availability of MAID, nor they seem to be challenging its criteria for it. Although I would say that I would certainly think from these presenters that they disagree with it like I do, but that's fine. What she's saying and what the next person will say is that the fact that this MAID program identifies in one of its categories disabled people with disabilities in of itself basically says, if you have a disability, you're garbage. Go. Okay, I'm just being as blunt as I can. When she says it much more eloquently and very clear, she's excellent, the speaker. And what she's saying is that by categorizing people with disabilities as eligible in one of the 4 categories for MAID, the government is in so doing, she says discriminating, which is kind, being assholes, to being very, very degrading to people with disabilities. Because what they're basically saying is, if you have a disability, you're eligible, so you're not functional, you're not valuable to this world. And that is what they're saying. They're saying that there's a message implied in the MAID program by putting disabilities on there, disabled people, that disabled people are useless and garbage. And she's got a valid point. And that is really serious. Okay, so this is what she's saying, and we'll hear the next speaker too, who echoes that, and I'm right behind her.
And it violates our most fundamental rights.
The data doesn't reveal who has disabilities. Since 2017, MAID deaths have increased 4.5 times. That year, 2,838 deaths were medically assisted, compared to more than 13,000 in 2022. The coalition will file a charter challenge in Ontario. It argues MAID is being offered too easily to people who are socially deprived, living in poverty, and lacking health supports.
I've just recently been asked, why would you choose to live rather than when you had MAID? I went in for a bruised hip, not because I was suffering, because I've got a disability. Can you imagine how flippant that is?
But supporters...
Okay, very clear. The second woman who spoke was extremely clear with her message. Kudos to her. What they're saying is that they've caused a prejudice and a really mean treatment to people who have a disability, that they're being prejudiced against as being incompetent and not even deserving to be in this world. In fact, she went in for a bruised hip and she was offered MAID because she has a disability. So their point is clear. It's basically affecting an ill-spirited, degrading essence to people who are living with disabilities. I don't think, and it certainly is not, based on what I've seen here in the speakers, not advocating whether they want to or not want to take MAID. What they're saying is by offering it, it's degrading them. And in fact, there certainly is a hint that they really don't approve of. They don't want to have their other people suffering who have a disability end up killing themselves. However, that message is clear, right? So they're not advocating for MAID or against MAID. What they're saying is the way they've set out MAID, they've actually caused people with disabilities to be in danger of having their lives taken and being degraded by medical staff and other people thinking they're useless. Okay, well taken and understood. Now, CTV then juxtaposes this woman coming from dying in dignity, and this is what she says.
Of the law say there is no evidence that shows health practitioners are not acting responsibly.
Overwhelmingly, it's actually people who are affluent, educated, well off that are having an assisted death. There's nothing that would demonstrate that those who are more vulnerable are being approved for MAID.
According to Statistics Canada,
I almost want to replay that. I don't know
if I can do that easily.
Okay, let me just go through very carefully. Very scary woman. Sorry, I said it coming off. Okay, so you've got people who have made a very good point that the way the government has laid it out, has prejudiced and discriminated and been really quite sending a mean message about people with disabilities. Okay, really well clear. Then they bring this woman who is an advocate because she's the CEO that's making money of a business called Dying with Dignity, making money off that business and getting people to take their lives. Right?
Officially, it's a nonprofit. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So just a kind foundation with 12 stakeholders and lots of money. Yeah. So why is she coming on? And if you listen to what she says, this woman, Ms. Long, is saying that, geez, poor people should be able to get MAID too. It's not fair. It's only going if you have affluency and money. We should we should advocate for more people to die, especially if they're poor, because that's not fair to them. Mm-hmm. Can we play that again by chance? So
I don't know how far I don't know if we can. Let me see.
Listen. We can. Well, yeah. Listen carefully to this woman. Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Health practitioners are not acting responsibly.
Overwhelmingly, it's actually people who are affluent, educated, well off that are having an assisted death. There's nothing that would demonstrate that those who are more vulnerable are being approved for MAID.
According to Statistics.
Okay, so what that woman is saying, advocating for dying in dignity, which advocates for people to kill themselves and have the right to do that, even if they are not on the government mandate, is she's saying, geez, look at that. There's no reason why people with less affluency and money shouldn't be allowed to end their lives. Okay, so they're very different messages. So what is CTV doing? Let's play the end of it. And then, okay.
Canada. The proportion of people choosing medically assisted deaths is about 4% of total deaths in Canada each year. Sandy.
All right, Judy.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so here's a discussion I wanted to open up. What is CTV doing? Is it just confused and making mistakes and juxtaposing apples with oranges? Because one voice of civil rights is not going in saying we want the right to or not to die. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is the program itself is itself discriminatory against people with disabilities. And in that way, it's violating the charter of being discriminated. Okay.
Can I cut in for a moment?
Yes.
I remember the piece we did last week. It was under the title, The Supreme Court's Ciannulli versus Canada Decision and Made.
Yep.
The second person who talked was with Dying with Dignity. And Dying with Dignity has explicitly noted that Ciannulli versus Canada disallows any federal government organization from disallowing medical care. So what they're going to do right now, Made, is only for certain categories of people. But the lobby group, Dying with Dignity, is objectively going to go before the Supreme Court over the next couple of years. And they're going to say, you can't deny care, whether you're rich or poor or anything. You can't deny care. Everybody gets dying with dignity every time they feel like it.
Wow. And wonder
That's
why,
what I see.
What could a corporation gain by having the death of a healthy person? What could it possibly gain? I don't. And again, if they are also vice presidents of companies that utilize organs and say it for brain research.
You did say that last week. There
going-
are a number of people on the
Sorry.
board of Dying with Dignity who also do longevity research and do organ transplants
Yeah.
or
Well,
they're
organ harvesting.
organ
It's
harvesting.
not
That's a
just
nicer one.
It's not research. It's being able to take cells from a healthy brain that's just
Mm-hmm.
died to develop a drug or procedure for people who will pay money
Yep.
so that they don't fall in and have dementia.
And I recall reading a piece just a couple days back where I think it was the New Brunswick government said that a person doesn't have to be dead yet. There has to be a reasonable expectation that they'll be dead soon,
Yeah.
but they don't have to be dead yet in order to harvest organs.
Jesus, this is getting to be a dystopia. We got our passports yet?
we
Like this is awful.
do have to get our
It's
passports,
just-
but
my God. Okay, so here we go.
this is the beginning of a court case.
Okay, so I want to just focus in so we can, like, if we're wondering how do people get to be at the point, that second woman, Ms. Long, that they're actually trying to push people towards death as a positive thing. Okay, how do you get to that point? How do we get the messages so entwined? If you look at what CTV has done there, if they've gone in and said, this is how they hijacked the first advocacy group. The first advocacy group of disabled people was really clear. By putting us in your MAID program, you're saying we're not valuable to society. And that in itself is discrimination. Very clear.
They would argue differently. They would argue that the pain is so serious that we put you down like we put down pets in order to save you from the pain. We're very nice.
I know. I'm talking about the advocacy group.
Yeah.
Advocacy group. The actual advocacy group that's going in for the disabled. Its message is clear. By putting us as a category in your MAID program process and allowing it, not only is it dangerous to other people with disabilities, but it fosters a strange, prejudiced view that we with disabilities are useless and don't deserve to be living. That is their point, and it's really well taken. So how does CTV then bring the Dying with Dignity woman to advocate for more people to die? and it should be their human right. Do you see how that doesn't make sense?
I see how it makes sense to CBC. I would also argue I'm a strong advocate of Catherine Austin Fitts for this. She said, no, I'm CTV, but I'm a strong advocate of Catherine Austin Fitts, who argued quite explicitly that if more people don't die before they get pension benefits, the country will go bankrupt. So a lot of people are suggesting that the worsening of the quality of care in American and Canadian and European hospitals, to be fair, European hospitals, and the increasing age before you receive benefits, that's trying to keep the government solvent. So I would say if you die faster, you keep the government solvent. I don't know if I want to keep the government solvent, but that's what that's the logic behind what's
But I do
going
note
on.
that you made the point. If some of us say, well, we don't want to keep the government solvent, isn't that part of the narrative too? They want everything to collapse.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have all
Sure what
sorts
to
of
say.
different. Richard, you're quiet. What do you think?
Now, I'm just trying to relate this to an organization out here in Seymour Arm, which is Aging with Ease.
Oh.
What is that?
Well, it seems like it's supposed to be helping the seniors, those who are seniors, to keep a good lifestyle going.
Mm-hmm.
But again, whenever we start talking about this stuff, and I always think about it as being part of MAID.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just an organization out here. It's called Aging with Ease. And actually, I've been to a couple of them every Friday, the last Friday of every month. They have a luncheon at the community center. And just to get together. And I've been to a few of them. A lot of younger people go to it.
Okay.
But the thing is that I don't quite understand how that, I mean, they say that they're helping the seniors out here. That's what it says, but I'm not too sure really how far that's going to go.
What do they do for the seniors other than hold meetings?
Just basically get to, if somebody needs help, they go and help them. They need a wall fixed in their house. Well, people will go and help them.
What if that word help expands its definition to assisted suicide, right? See that?
Well, they'll do the work. They'll do the repairs in their home and their yard and all that stuff, and get them firewood and stuff like that. So that Aging with Ease is the name of it.
Yeah. So what I was suggesting is, if you take Aging with Ease and helping people, and you expand the definition, just like the government expands definitions to commit the crimes it's doing,
Yes.
then if you expand that helping to help with suicide.
We've talked about changing words in the past, color and
Law,
things
honor,
like that.
family, all the definitions, interest. Yeah.
Yeah, the change in the meanings of terms when we went from common law to everything written down. There is guaranteed a lot of that going on. I would suggest, Richard, that the organization, as you've described it to us, is pretty good. I don't mind it at all. I would object to it if they started using my tax dollars to put down my neighbors because they were too old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's what I'm suggesting, is that it's a creep into that, and that's how they would lure you in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I should have brought a video from a guy named Ivor Cummins, who I've listened to before, who we've referenced before, and Ivor Cummins does a Friday show these days. He has 4 or 5 videos, memes about what people think is going on, and the one who did the best meme from 2 or 3 days ago was this bald-headed guy from Vancouver who talked about boiling frogs and how you can reproduce that in capitalism, and the great depopulation doesn't need to happen all at once. It doesn't even need to be anybody's responsibility. You just increase prices. You decrease the quality of food. You decrease the quality of education. And after a while, people want to die. They just curl up and they die watching TV. Sometimes they take MAID, and it's survival of the fittest, which is what the elites want. And it cuts down the amount of useless eaters. So maybe this is a component of that. Maybe just
I'm suggesting that they would boil the frogs slowly, right?
Mhm.
First, get them into the pot by saying we're helping you with assisted living because you're in your older stages of living, and then we then change the definition of assist and help. Well, we broaden it, and then maybe a couple of sessions for you to see that dying is an option.
I would argue that up until 40 or 50 years ago, the elderly were taken care of by their children. They were taken care of by the churches. They were taken care of by a number of organizations that were not government. Maybe we should move back to something like that.
Oh,
I mean, the government's not nice.
Careful with the churches. Churches and government are going intertwined.
Yeah, good point.
But it ought to be the family. Elders should be living back with the family, but if we look at the attack on the family unit, certainly since the turn of the century of the 1900 and a little bit predating it, the attack on the family unit.
Richard?
The big attack was on the COVID-19.
Yeah, I agree. We weren't supposed to meet our family. We weren't supposed to go to funerals. We weren't supposed to care for them in any way, shape, or form. And we were supposed to lock them up in tiny little rooms where they couldn't talk with anybody for 2 years.
That precipitated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's been slowly evolving, like a tiptoe boiling slowly, that you don't take care of grandma and grandpa anymore. You shove them off.
Yeah.
You don't, children are not to be raised at home, but to put in daycare after they're 2 weeks old. So all of these things, shoving them off, men versus women and competing, moms versus dads. And then, as Richard correctly said, you put in an extra precipitant like the COVID host and hoax. And then what that does is gives people an excuse that you can maybe drive by and wave to grandma, but that's about it. And maybe, and so it certainly hastened an already process. It boiled it, it turned it up.
That was part of the agenda. That was part of the agenda with the with the COVID.
Yeah.
The family union. I know it destroyed my family union.
Well, it was arguably what I'm saying is the family unit has been under attack since a lot of the social movements, feminism, and all these sorts of and the combat between moms and dads, all this stuff is brewing. But then you brought in the COVID situation, and that became a really good way to churn up the process quite correctly.
Yeah, made COVID, the situation overall, are symptoms in what's really happening to us right now.
Right.
So I don't know where we go from here. I want to keep it fairly narrow because I don't think anybody's knowledgeable enough to tell completely where everything's going right now. I don't know. Any more comments before moving on?
No, but Richard made a good point. There's an awful lot of families who have been destroyed. I mean, the huge precipitant of the COVID hoax really just churned up. The mechanism was going like this, and then it just took it up like that.
Yeah, it took away a lot of independence for a lot of people.
It desensitized people, and then, well, we haven't even gotten to the effects of the clot shot. Desensitized, but we won't with it.
They were desensitized even before they had the bad shots.
Yeah, but
we agree that the shots are bad. Yeah. I don't think we're supposed to agree that the shots are bad. After all, this is broadcast on YouTube, so we're not supposed to say anything bad.
Not going to say anything bad. Just kidding. No, I think some of the literature that's come out has looked into the effects of people who have taken the jobs, and that it has affected very dramatically their sensitivity, their moods. A lot of people have spoken up about how they felt very different.
Oddly enough, there's a lot of literature on that topic, particularly in Europe, particularly in the United States. It's available in Canada if you care to search for it, but it's not as commonly available here.
Did we get kicked off YouTube now?
Not so far. We're still on.
Okay.
Any more comments before?
It depends if Otter AI picks up the jargon, right? Depends
Yeah.
on, or the particular chat, GPT,
GPT.
whatever, croc of the croc of grog.
Richard, any more comments before we wind up?
No, I think it's you guys covered that quite well there.
You said we covered it quite well.
Yes.
We diatribe too much, but I think it's a useful topic, and I think it's one of those topics where you have to bring in all the loose connections and see if you can try and put them together.
That's
when
important.
they brainwash the population to the extent that they do in so many complicated little ways, incarnate, then it's difficult to take that all down. We're all subjected to it, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We were all subjected. We all continually are to brainwashing. It's not simple. All of us are.
Let's wind up. Are we good?
Yep.
Yep.
Richard, what's on your plate for the next couple of days?
Oh, you forgot Richard's piece on Operation Alice.
Oh, I'm sorry about
Operation
that. You
Alice.
are right. We have one more piece.
Yeah.
Cue up Operation Alice.
Operation Alice. CIA. Alice in Wonderland. This is
Here we go.
Really, this was so interesting when I saw it. I thought, let's do this.
Here we are. February 7th, Mongo Minds on BitChute post, Operation Alice.
So Elon Musk just tweeted, "Follow the White Rabbit," and I'm going to tell you the deeper meaning of that. So you guys know the Disney cartoon that was made around 1951 called Alice in Wonderland, where a girl named Alice falls asleep during a history lesson. And in her dreams that feel really real, because she's asleep, she follows and goes down a rabbit hole. She follows a white rabbit into an alternate universe where nothing makes sense. Basically, everything is inverted. That's key. So what's really interesting about this is the CIA actually declassified a bunch of documents called Operation Alice. And let me show you. So, Alice in Wonderland tactics, right here, done by CIA. And it's basically a confusion technique and also can be used to control the narrative onto an unsuspecting public through the use of psychological operations. Now, what's the point of that? Well, basically, if you're confused and you don't know the truth, you will actually look onto media and government for guidance in the future. And basically, you're able to be controlled much easier. So, it gets even weirder because I found Exercise Alice that was done in 2016, and let me show you. And this leads to Exercise Alice, which is basically a MERS-CoV pandemic modeling exercise done by the UK in February of 2016. Now, other countries had the exact same thing, and you'll also see similar names because it's all connected to mind control and psyops. Now, why would they do that? Why would they need to do this? Everything I've been trying to tell you guys is psychological mind control. They are basically trying to confuse us and make us not listen to our gut instinct so that they can control us more. Now, how do we stop this for the future? Anything that they implement, we are stronger in numbers if we do not comply. They will pump so much fear out there and they will tell you that everything's collapsing and everything's coming down and all of this bad stuff. Do not be afraid. Always stay in the light, speak your truth, and make sure that you have a group of people around you, whether you're out in the suburbs, whether you're in a really, really urban area, or if you're out in the middle of nowhere like me. Make sure you talk to your neighbors, work together, make sure that you have all the information that you need in order to basically combat what they're trying to do to us. And this is why I always say, do not listen to the media, do not listen to mainstream media. Follow your gut instinct, do your own research, and make sure that you always stay in the light, and the light is the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Well, he's not there, so
You get the diatribe first.
I liked a lot of the stuff that. Oh, go ahead, Richard.
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to bring up that story because I thought it covered an awful lot of good stuff.
Well, when was the CIA created?
I don't know, 1953, 52, sometime around that.
Do you guys agree on that?
Yeah, it's about the right time.
When did this woman, Tiana, that in the video, when did she say that the Alice character came to fruition?
The Alice character came in 1921, I believe, through Disney.
She said 1958. But anyway,
Okay.
would it surprise you that Alice in Wonderland is a book written by a gentleman named Lewis Carroll in 1865? Lewis Carroll was from the UK. Lewis Carroll was presented it as to show the inversion of British society and the hoaxes that was going on. In 1871, there is a subsequent book called Through the Looking Glass. So Lewis Carroll, I actually studied and taught a little bit of that back in the university. He was looking into the straight inversions of revealing British society, its hypocrisy, and perhaps the stepstones there. So my concern is getting the timing correctly, that Alice was in fact born in 1865, that character.
Is it fair to note that while the character was created by Lewis Carroll to talk about the peculiarities of an earlier society, is it, oops, I'm going to drop out.
Yeah.
Do they have lessons for the new world? They have lessons for today.
They do. And Richard, I mean, it is a good point. I think you should probably present it. If you want to develop it more, but it is a really good point in that it was brought up in the Matrix, and so what we certainly can explore is how the CIA or different mind control programs may be playing on that and adding to what Lewis Carroll developed. It's absolutely.
Does that sound fair, Richard?
The story was created, and the CIA saw it and was able to adapt it to its mandate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, the CIA knew about it because by the time it came to fruition in the 50s, I mean, it had already, the book had been since 1865, 1871. Yep. So they took that and used that because, I'm going to suggest in following your point, Richard, is that the mind control and the games that were going on were even prior to the actual formation informal of the CIA, that these things were happening in the 1800s and 1700s. Mm-hmm. And they were just perhaps not as formalized.
Right.
So Lewis Carroll, captured. Some people also say that Carroll was on magic mushrooms when he wrote the story. But I've also been led to understand that sometimes people, when on psychedelics, they certainly show more that they're seeing. But I mean, I didn't. So is Operation Alice an actual bona fide CIA, recognized? Like we had Operation Warp Speed and Operation, all of it, Paperclip and stuff like that. Is that all? Is it recognized?
According to her information, she pulled it out and found out that Operation Alice was something that was legitimate from the CIA's point of view.
And yeah, let's take a look, because what they could be doing, exactly as you say, Richard, is playing on the
let's see what I can. Oops.
On the story.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
We see Exercise Alice.
Let me see if I can bring this up on the screen. There's a couple of things. Yeah. I'm only searching on Google right now, which is absolutely not the best thing to search for CIA malfeasance. But it does show some interesting stuff. It shows the Alice in Wonderland tactic, which relates to monarch handlers and how they program their slaves.
Yeah, there you go.
That might be it. Alice mind control. There's also an exercise addict at Alice, which seems to relate to a public health exercise in the UK.
Well, to be fair, I mean, maybe Tiana has unearthed something that none of us can find, and if it is actually being secretive, it's not going to appear on Wikipedia.
No,
So
I agree
maybe
with that.
she's unearthed something that that Richard, that you guys have shared, that she's found this in the CIA where they're taking that and
They were just using that storyline.
Say again, Richard.
They used the storyline of Alice in Wonderland to see how they could make it work for mind control.
Jeez, I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there.
That is Exercise Alice.
Without me getting, without
Alice
you,
yeah.
don't jump down on my throat on this one.
Okay.
But let me suggest that if that is the case and they are exploiting the whole concept of going down the rabbit hole, then wouldn't that mean that all of us who are going down all of these podcasts and going the Rothschilds and all this, wouldn't we be taking the bait? I'm just
we might be. We
we
definitely might be.
Are we taking the bait?
Could
Following
be.
the rabbit rather than being eyes up here and looking what we need.
Richard, what do you think?
You think?
That's a very good possibility.
Yeah.
I'm completely open to that particular discussion. It's just that the stories that I find and on the internet, they go all over the place. So now if I present them to let people, not to confuse them, but to let them think and investigate it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do agree. And we've started the investigation here. So
Yep.
it's a good place to start.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that exactly. I mean, it makes sense to take a look. This is what's there. And then it's really important to look at it, because then you can look at where did it come from? What was it? Who presented it? What's it all about? Rather than, just taking it face value. And in some cases they are legitimate. There's legitimate, expressing of valid truth and information. In other cases, they could be leading you down, like why we have all this interesting stuff on Anunnaki and Zachariah Stitch. We were just stitching, right?
Well, I'm thinking more along the lines of more prosaic propaganda, the Epstein's Friends piece. I'm thinking of the propaganda on the Vigilant Citizen post, the ones we talked about in the beginning of tonight's show.
Yeah.
They're full of propaganda designed to make us draw conclusions emotionally.
Yep.
Not to step back, do our due diligence,
Yep.
and do what we need to do to maintain control of our environment, the situation, help us control the politicians who certainly need control at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, as you said, if it wants to lead us down a rabbit hole, then that takes us out of we're down the rabbit hole over here, rather than seeing, they're using MAID programs, they're putting things in your arm, they're doing all these things, which we should be like looking at it right here. So it's an interesting. I'm open that Tiana's found something.
Me too. I think it was a denser discussion than I expected to get out of the piece. So I appreciate that, Richard. Thank you.
Okay.
But we got to wind up now. We're over an hour.
Yep.
This time for sure. Oh, we got a comment. We can't. Oh no, that's not it.
That's a
a
troll.
big comment.
Yeah.
But we do need to talk about what's on your plate for the next couple of days, and where can we find it?
Oh, hey, tomorrow I'm going to do a long story for my show in the morning.
Okay.
Instead of the smaller stories. And then Tuesday I'll do the smaller stories. And we'll get together on Tuesday afternoon for another show of Last Week Today. And then Thursday I'll be doing a long story.
Mm-hmm.
And on Friday I'll do 8 small stories. I like my new format because I don't have to do as much editing. And I can throw things together a little bit faster.
Yes.
Especially now because we're in the process of springtime coming, and I'm going to be busy doing all sorts of things soon. So my time's going to be very valuable to me.
I agree, and good for you. You've had a nice, relaxing winter, I think.
It has been. Yeah.
Oh,
We haven't had
sorry, go ahead.
we haven't had much snow out here, so it's been nice.
Poor Richard was out. Go ahead.
What's that?
I say poor Richard was out. Do you remember in the summer, Richard, you'd be out for 9 hours or 10 hours during the day on roofs and putting together log cabins.
Yeah, I remember one day you came on the air. You were talking about how you and a bunch of friends lifted up a building and carried it down the road.
Yeah, well, I was watching that and I missed the last part of it. So because I have to come and do a show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
As for us over here at Freedom Forum, we will be doing, we'll be publishing an interview with Jim Kerr tomorrow. You know Jim Kerr. He was at the ostrich farm and he did a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, he was also in Ottawa.
Yeah, and he seems to be attracted to these sort of protests these days. I got a certain amount of respect for him. He's interviewed by a gentleman that I often work with, a gentleman named Mike Bear, and we look forward to seeing that. And on Tuesday, I will be back with you for another edition of Last Week Today. Right. Hopefully, it'll be less confusing. We will focus on the news, the boring news that everybody else focuses on, but we'll try and get a little bit of subtext so people can understand why this stuff is happening and maybe what's going to happen next. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think the last piece is so important though. Like they're so important. What the point that Richard brought up is that we got to be careful. Going down the rabbit holes takes us away from looking at. We need to if the asteroid's coming at us, we need to do something and respond rather than just sort of.
We have to sit there and watch that asteroid come in.
I agree 100%. And now, forgive me, I'm going to do my diatribe.
Okay.
As for Freedom Forum, we normally record every Sunday night at 5:30 p.m. on a variety of internet platforms, including the one you're watching now. We republish next day with show notes on our Substack page at chuckblack.substack.com. We're going to include a couple of extra show notes for the last piece that Richard brought up, the one with Tiana, to give people an idea of where they can go, perhaps for solutions. And most of our stories slide behind a paywall after a month online. So if you'd like to maintain access, the easiest thing to do is to sign up for a monthly subscription. Subscriptions are $20 Canadian a month, $160 per year. They entitle you to access archived posts, anything over a month old, plus include lots of in-depth stuff not covered on our regular shows. And we also have the Substack app to help you access Freedom Forum stories from your phone and subscriber chat so you can tell us what you really, really want. My name's Chuck Black. I directed this show using StreamYards, which both Richard and I, and to a lesser extent, Marianne, although she never uses it, recommend. We recommend StreamYards, but only if you sign up using Richard's or my link. We get a little bonus out of this at the end of each month to help defray some costs. We will have some new sponsors we will be promoting starting next week. We talked about one or two of them. We are doing another sponsor interview next Monday, so we get 2 interviews over the next week or so, which is going to be a challenge for me to keep up. I'm hoping Marianne will ask all the hard questions. Tonight, Marianne and Richard both co-hosted, both contributed some great stuff, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm hoping that's all tonight. And, well, did I miss anything?
No, you did good. You've done good again.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Marianne. We'll see you in a couple of days, Richard. And always a pleasure working with you.
Oh, yeah. Great working with you too.
Good night.